Bags of power there because he was trying to use this little overlapping volume down low there for his right foot. Tried it as a heel, didn't work, it slipped. Tried it as a toe, that slipped as well. In the end, just trying to pounce for it into that side pull that he's got. It's not a good side pull to be pouncing to, so he's done well there to secure that and kind of start to get something back.
Quite amazing where he's able to rest there on a pretty horrendous crimp that he's currently got his right foot on. He was kind of swapping between that and the hole below to rest. Now he's got to find his hands. You can see him biceps doing a lot of work, and that's a big move out to the left. You've got to go full commitment. Slightly different sequence to what we saw from Hidemasa Nishida. Again, he's onto the head wall, and again the crowd are coming to life. You can see his cheeks puffing with the effort, betraying just exactly how much energy is going into this. Got himself into quite a nice, clever position there, actually.
Yeah, he's just trying to figure out which of those two little jibs to use first. Opts for his right hand on the high one to cross under with the left hand. Not without getting the clip first, though.
I wonder if he's... now he's got himself in an awkward position for this clip here with your forearms kind of at the same... your hands at the same level as your ears. It's pretty hard to clip from there. Really needs to figure this one out. Yeah, looked controlled earlier on, but just seemed to get himself a bit tangled as he pulled onto the head wall.
We were just saying at the preview of the finals routes, very similar to last night. If the climbers make a small mistake in terms of the route reading, the placement of a heel or a toe or the hands, they're going to get punished severely, and you saw that from Marcello. You've got to climb this route perfectly. He had a left heel pinned, and he couldn't really pull up and use that heel to pull into the wall to get the clip. Ended up super bunched. Potentially, if he had a left toe on there rather than a heel, might have been a bit cleaner for him to get through.
Yeah, just because these routes don't have tricks, because they don't have any 360s, because you don't end up facing the crowd or going feet first, doesn't mean they're easy to read or they're straightforward. You've got to get the sequence absolutely right, and what we saw, I think, from Marcello Bombardi was he got himself into an okay position, but he couldn't leave that position, and he also couldn't clip from it.
Yeah.
And then from that stage, he was always going to be in trouble.
And just looking at him as he tries to untie his double figure of 8 knot, really struggling, gives you a good idea of how pumped he was actually up there. So it's yeah, it's not as if the route is easy, that's for sure. It's a very, very pumpy line, and even though the first climber out, Hidemasa got really high up on the wall, I think to get to the top is an extraordinary battle from that point onwards.
Yeah, it makes you realise that it might only be half a dozen moves, but when you're absolutely fried and you've just done 40 moves to get there, that's still an awfully long way. Now here's Dom and Scoffit, really wanting to get back on top of the podium, and they will not get many better opportunities than this.
I have to say, I'm super nervous about this final tonight because we really do not know who's the hottest guy in town. We just do not know at the moment where everybody is at this stage in the season.
Hidemasa Nishida, by the way, he scored a 49 plus. Marcello Bombardi was just 5 moves short of that, 34 plus, and Domen is underway. Actually ended up 3rd in the Lead World Cup overall standings for 2018. Kind of came from nowhere with a late rally. Sealed joint 3rd place as it was in Xiamen.
Another one of those climbers who, after his semi-final climb, pretty much assumed it was nowhere near going to be enough.
Yeah, he lowered down, visibly frustrated, and we could see him in the athletes area as well, chatting to a couple of climbers, looked thoroughly hacked off. And climber after climber came out and just couldn't match or better him, and he ended up in 6th.
Yeah, he did sort of have a sort of weird, unexpected slip actually in the semi-final route.
Yeah, it was a strange fall he had.
Yeah, he came off looking at both of his hands, he just fired off. Let's hope that's not a sort of skin issue or anything that's going to play into the storyline of his climb tonight. But he said basically he was feeling super good, so this is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned this last night. One interesting thing that's come up from chatting to the route setters over the past few days is that the climbers, for some reason, they don't perform quite as well when the final is on a different day to the semi-final. You would imagine that after a full day's rest, climbers would perform much better in the final than if they'd had the semi-final that day, but it's generally felt, obviously it couldn't be proved, it's pretty unscientific, but by the route setters, that they get better performances in the finals if they've had the semi-final that day. Whether that's the climbers not being able to snap into competition mode, it's hard to say, but the climbers have had a long wait to get here. It's 8 o'clock at night here in Briancon, and they've not been on the wall until now. The women won't climb until 9 it's a long day to kill, waiting and lost in your own thoughts.
Well, exactly. It's a long time to think about it. Nice little, almost a sort of campus there. It's a bit of a float in the end off the toe hook from Domen there. Didn't bother using the right foot and pressing it out like we saw from Marcello and Hidemasa. So Domen showing quite a lot of power early on in the route, a lot of confidence.
I have to say, Domen's looking as good on a lead wall as I've seen him for quite some time.
This is the right heel placement that Marcello wasn't very happy with. Domen just goes for a right foot down low there. Had a quick feel of the right heel round on that overlapping volume, quickly calculated it wasn't good enough and moved on. So much cleaner through there than Marcello.
Yeah, I mentioned that Domen sealed third place in the overall standings last year with that win for him in Xiamen. That was actually his first win since 2016. So he had a winless season in 17. Picked one up in 18. What can he do in 19? He looks really, really strong on this Briancon wall. He won here as well in 2016. Former Briancon winner, looking to make it a brace of victories here. That move's looked hard for all three climbers who've done it. You've got to go full gas. There's no coming back from there if you got it wrong.
Yeah, Hidemasa and Nishida's method through there is looking all the more impressive at the moment, as he didn't even bother using that lower left hand initially through that section. Domen's got the clip really wrapped around his harness at the moment. Looks like he's got it, you know.
Yeah, it's now hanging in front of his left groin. Anytime the clip is kind of touching you, it generally makes it a pain. You want the quick draw to be hanging and you can just reach up with one hand and clip it. It did well, but it's not an easy position to clip from when it's right sitting in your waist, in your lap like that.
The way that Domen uses his heel hooks is absolutely perfection. So clinical with his heels. Every time he puts them in, he seems to get something back. Opts for that left heel now changes it to a left toe. So when we saw Marcello Bombardi struggling and he just slips again.
Yeah, the right heel never looked solid. And as he went to trust it, it just slipped out from underneath him, and he will be really frustrated with that. He was beginning to look tired, but if he got himself out to the right, we saw Hidemasa Nishida drop a knee and get himself in a bit more of a comfortable position between those two big yellow volumes, and Domen perhaps could have done the same. But yeah, that right heel never quite looked like it was in place.
I have to say, Chad, I do agree. He was starting to look really pumped there. The route really comes alive between the 8th and 9th quick draw, but that was a pretty unexpected fall, to be honest. I wasn't quite ready for that. Let's have another look. So he just changes the left heel to a left toe.
Yeah, so he goes up and he puts his right heel, yeah, just by where his hip was. I don't think he was ever quite sitting on it.
No, it was the right heel. I mean, it's commentator's curse if there ever was one. I'm just saying how awesome he is in his heel hooks. Puts one on and it slips off.
Well, it was more a heel sit, and I don't think he waited it until it really mattered.
Yeah, maybe as a climber he focuses on the heel so much. You've seen him use heel hooks in the past where others have used toe hooks and foot plants and stuff, but in the end he potentially used a heel there where a flat foot might have been a bit better.
So the 2017 Youth A lead world champion makes his way onto the wall. We've seen him in finals before, we've never seen him on a podium. Hidemasa Nishida's never been on a podium either, and he's currently topping the rankings with 5 climbers, including this man who's currently on the stage, his compatriot Shooter Tanaka, still to come.
I have to say, it's disappointed there's no golden thrones for the winner's chair here in Briancon.
Everything is a case of budget. Just remember. Yeah, they've got bouldering mats, which is kind of in keeping with climbing, but yeah, maybe we could go for the snowboard competition style throne, yeah, or the hot tub.
Oh, I have seen a climbing comp with a hot tub as a podium, actually.
Just need one as a commentary box.
Those were the days.
This is no gimme, this move, actually. We've seen quite a few climbers kind of set themselves to go for it. It's a pretty reasonable edge you're going for, but it's quite blind.
Yeah, slightly nervy start there from Shooter as well. We've seen Domen just really working very quickly through that lower section. Just a bit of hesitation. You either wonder if that's just a hard move or he's just a little bit nervous out there.
Yeah, Shooter just needs to get himself calmed down and into the route. He's been on the wall a minute now and beginning to look slightly smoother after that As I say, slightly risky move low down. There's no getting away from it, but he did look particularly cautious on it.
Just struggles with the clip a little bit then, almost a Sean McCall clipping moment. There, the rope just snagged in the gate a little bit. He's got his, I was just about to say his right leg's a little bit tangled in the rope on those long draws, but does kind of unravel out of it quite easily in the end. Everybody up to this point has used the sequence that the route setters expected through there. So this next move is where we saw first two climbers using this right foot the shooter does use. Dom just floated up off of the volume down low.
Trying to shake out already. It's a really interesting route. We find the climbers are kind of stopping a lot. You wouldn't call it resting. They're able to stop a lot of the time and just quickly shake out, but there's nowhere where they can really get their hand off for a prolonged period.
Shooter's looking in a bit of trouble here all of a sudden. Does get out of it nicely with a really well worked high right heel.
Yeah, that's the way to do that move. We've seen a couple of climbers have to really smash for that right hand. He was able to do it with much more control, but as you say, he's starting to really look tired now. Team Japan come alive, trying to encourage him. This is where Marcello Bombardi rested, but the left hand crimp is so poor.
Doman managed to get a good rest here as well. It's this left heel that really is giving the climbers something.
Yeah, as I say, the angle and the fact that that left hand hold is so poor, it's a pretty substandard rest. 3 minutes now remaining of his 6.
It's interesting, look at the way he's resting. To rest his left hand, he drops his right foot down. To rest his right hand, he puts his right heel up. It's quite interesting the method he's having to use. There he goes, right heel goes up to drop the right hand off, just to make space.
Now he launches into it. Here goes Shooter Tanaka. The Briancon crowd cheer him as he pushes toward what is proven to be probably the crux section. You've got to read it right, you've got to execute it, and you've got to do it quickly as well. That's the second move that other climbers have made look very committing, that Shooter's made look very, very smooth.
Didn't use the lower left foot there, didn't seem to need it because his right heel was tucked in so tight on this grey volume. He's looked pumped from quite a few moves ago, but somehow he's still pushing on here.
Well, he definitely paused for the longest of anyone on the rest down there. He's got the clips done.
That's where Doman placed a really high right heel. Shooter looks like he's going to go low. There is a right foot available for him. Just pounces out for it.
That's going to put him into second place. That was the move where we lost Marcello and Doman. And here's Shooter Tanaka heading for a new high point after something of a shaky start on the route. He's really come into his own on the upper section. Gets the two joint volumes, commits up with the right crimp but can't quite hold it. That's a brilliant effort from Shooter and he knows it. That'll put him into a pretty comfortable second place. He's going to take some beating, to be honest, because it looked so pumped low down and did fantastically well to get something back in his arms.
Yeah, again, between the 8th and 9th clip, just looks absolutely boxed all of a sudden. I was pretty surprised if you're going to get many more moves than that, especially when he jumped out to that big side pull just under the angle change. I thought surely that is it. But it just showed that sometimes the way that the climbers shake out, they may look completely flamed, but it actually has a fair bit left. Either that or he's just got the world's most extraordinary recovery in one heel hook and a couple of handholds next to each other, and he managed to get 90% of his fitness back. That was a quite a really interesting climb there from Shooter. Really enjoyed that one, and so did he.
Yeah, so half the male finalists gone now. We've had Hidemasa Nishida, Marcello Bombardi, Domen Skofic, and just now Shooter Tanaka. As it stands, it's Hidemasa Nishida leading the way, 39 plus for him, 38 plus for Shooter Tanaka, and then tied on 34 plus. Domen Skofic and Marcello Bombardi. Domen moving ahead on count back to the previous round. Sean McCall will be next out of Canada. You can see a few of his compatriots and near compatriots for the American team as well, not too far from our commentary position. Sean just being made to wait behind the wall.
Yeah, local MC is just describing to the absolutely huge crowd here what's going on up there in the sequence. It's just laser penning a few of the top holes just to talk through what's what up there, and someone who definitely knows what to talk about, Francois Legrand, doing the MC work here alongside Christopher, the other legend of the MCing game in France. As we wait for Sean McCall.
Yeah, he's a pretty good expert to have alongside of Francois Legrand. Picked up one or two things from him. I just sort of lift my headphones off to listen to what he's saying. You can see again, Sean still waiting. Now cameraman's managed to find him backstage. Makes life tricky though, being made to wait like this.
I think Sean McCall is going to come out and put an extraordinary battle into this route. He was back in the finals last week in Chamonix. He's generally seems to go reasonably well here in Briancon. You might remember him picking up a third place in 2016. Spent a long time in France, lived here for a while, speaks the language perfectly, feels very at home here. He's going to get a lot of support, and that is the scene. That is a wonderful sight, the big wall here in Briancon with the mountains of the Écran and the Kira visible behind. So nice, in fact, Mike, that you were supposed to go home tomorrow and just decided you couldn't really think of a good reason to do that, so you stayed a bit longer. Mike Langley available for beers in Briancon if anyone wants to buy him one in the next week. Let's see how this final goes first.
Here comes Sean McCall. Game face firmly on. Often we see Sean really kind of pumping the crowd up and smiling and waving. This time just the briefest of waves, and gets on with it. And like you say, Mike, I think he really fancies this one.
Yeah, a potential early mistake in the Chamonix finals just last week. Maybe he's learned from that. Let's see.
Yeah, his face afterwards told the story in Chamonix. He just kind of slithered off a hold, having misread a sequence.
Pulls off the floor with the actual quick draw, the rope in his mouth. Don't see that too often at this level of the game. Skips the first right-hand side pull as well, straight off the floor. Now he uses it. Just get ready for the speed that is Sean McCall through this lower section.
Yeah, this is the first tricky move. You just got to go for it. There we go. I think he knew it was a move he had to go for, but he didn't waste too much time going for it. A lot of shouts now coming from the crowd all of a sudden. That springy style of Sean McCall's that people so enjoy watching. No mistakes so far. 50 seconds of his time gone. Unlikely to be troubled by the clock, Sean, given his climbing style, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway. Very solid so far, Mike. Haven't seen any mistakes, any issues, any misreads.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell with Sean if that's just his climbing style or he is putting a lot of power down through every single move.
Seems to have got everything pretty much spot on so far, apart from that clip.
Yeah, just fumbled that clip. It almost went in, but didn't quite. It's going to be interesting to see what he does through the right foot through this next move, through to this pinch.
He got lucky last night, managed to get the rope caught in a quick draw, and it clipped in as he fell off. Go back and you watch the semi-final replay and you'll see what I mean.
Will he take a rest here?
Yeah, I think is he using the Shooter Tanaka method of using the heel hook to rest the right hand? No, he's just getting straight on with it. Will he live to regret that? Choosing to take essentially no rest, basically chalked up and then carried on straight through.
Seems to be blowing pretty hard now.
Yeah, suddenly Sean having to work hard. We've seen this with all the climbers as they've got between the 8th and the 9th quick draw and begun to get themselves onto the head wall, that they've really had to work. But Sean's rocketed up the lower section, only used 2 minutes 10 seconds, and he pulls onto the head wall. Now he's got to try and get this clip done, and then when he moves out right, if he can get the move out to the right done, he might be able to get himself in a reasonably comfortable body position.
Looks like he's going to go right before clipping.
He is, and this is what I mean. You can push off the volume with your right foot, and there's something for your left. And
it's high risk here.
It is high risk because he also needs to get the clip done.
He's going to potentially climb himself into a position where he can't reverse to get the quick draw. If he does clip from this position, it'll be quite extraordinary.
I think he's planning to get his right hand where his left is and then clip from there. That, I guess, is the theory. And it doesn't quite work for Sean McCall. I think he enjoyed that. You don't see many reactions like that. Sean McCall as pumped up, I think, as I've ever seen him. God, gave that route everything, barely paused for breath.
Yeah, massive. I'm almost a little bit lost for words. That was absolutely brilliant from Sean McCall. So good to watch. Crowd really loved it. Big screams, just letting all that adrenaline come out right at the ground. He just basically climbed himself into what was basically a terrifying position, which I think added into his adrenaline there as he came off. It's hard to know with Sean. He's so clever with his climbing. He probably knew that he couldn't have got the clip without falling off, so quested off higher into the wall to get the points. It'd be interesting to see where the judges deem was the highest possible hold that he could have clipped from.
Well, I think he could definitely have clipped from where he was. So I don't think there'll be any stopping his score at a certain point. We'll see as it comes through, but I think I'm sure he could have clipped from where he was, but it would have been such an awkward clip.
Yeah, you could see actually. I think that was actually really clever from Sean. On his way, almost on his way off, slightly before his left foot landed, he touched the quick draw with his right hand on the way off, which may have been a quick calculation from him. Show the judges that it is possible to touch this quick draw. If you can touch it, you can clip it. Whether you've got enough left in the arms to clip it or not is a different story.
Yeah, remember you can't climb past the last clippable position, and that clippable position is determined by the route setters, and they inform the judges. So you can't just think, right, I'm getting boxed now, I'm not going to clip any more quick draws and I'll take the big fall. You've got to clip all the quick draws, and if you go beyond the last clippable position, then your score stops improving.
And I've just seen 3 IFSC technical officials running over to the route setting team to discuss exactly that.
Still waiting for Sean's score to come through, by the way, but Will Bosey's on the stage now. It'll still be Hidemasa Nishida leading the way. I told you we didn't need to be nervous when the first climber came out and smashed his way almost to the top.
I think if the whatever the decision of the judges, unless they give him the high point that he actually scored with his hands, there'll probably be an appeal, I imagine.
I think you're probably right, yeah. Still waiting for that to come through. By my look at our route map, I don't want to do the judges' work for them. I think that'll probably be a 38 or a 38 plus, depending on how exactly he fell. So it'll be in the region of second place for Shooter Tanaka.
Yeah, it'll either be up where he was, or it'll be around 33 and 34. Ooh, big difference.
Very big difference.
Because you get past that point, past hold 34, which is a 2 crimps on the volume, you go outright, you definitely can't clip it out from there. So yeah, he'll be either really high on the wall or quite low on the wall.
Lead climbing summarised nicely in one sentence.
And don't let go of the holds, is that part of climbing?
You'll either fall low, high, or in the middle, and don't let go. There we go. Don't know what they find so difficult. Here's Will Bosey on the, again, you mentioned it earlier, there's 2 clips really close together. I suppose it's because it's more than possible to fall at the angle change, and then you step out right, and it's the last logical place to put a quick draw. So not quite climbing at the speed of Sean McCall, but then who does? Yeah, still no sign of Sean's score. I do suspect that's because there are discussions going on.
Yeah, there are many officials that all still gathered around the
yeah, I could see Carlos Brasco, actually, our chief route setter, mimicking the movement Sean was doing, so there's clearly some element of debate. We'll come back to that later, because right now we've got Will Bosey on the wall. 1 minute 40 elapsed of his time, so bags of time remaining if he chooses to take a rest. So we saw Shooter Tanaka rest for ages there, and Will, I don't think it's quite a knee bar. I don't think that the inside of his right knee is really on anything, but he might be getting something out of it.
Yeah, sometimes just a knee tucked against the hand can just give you a little bit of stability, but Will's actually looking super fresh right now. Not even a glimpse of a kind of quiver or anything through the arms or the feet, and does that right toe really nicely all the way through 3 moves there for Will. That saved him a lot of energy on that really hard undercut move. He looks like he's going to get the clip from the sensible position off the left hand pinch there. He gets the hard clip done. That's the clip that Marcello Bombardi also struggled on alongside Sean McCall.
Just to let you know, Sean McCall's score did come through. He has been awarded a 38. Here goes Will Bosey. Oh, that looked like it might have been in the balance there. Now the crowd come alive. They're thinking, could we see a new high point? And so are we. Will Bosey, the fatigue beginning to kick in now, but he definitely looks like he's got some energy left. Will Bosey going really well. That is hold 38. Oh, and he was so close, and I think it was a mistake rather than fatigue.
It was a foot swap. He tried to swap his feet, and he's really toed down on the top of that yellow triangle, had his left toe on it. Needed to get this foot swap in place. Just as he foot swapped, he almost, well, it looked like he kicked his left foot off with his right foot. Such a tenuous position to clip from. He held the cut loose for a second, and it wasn't enough to recover, unfortunately. I'm sure we'll see that again. Was just in the feet.
Well, I have to say, when he sees the scores and what would have been required for first place, he might be doubly frustrated because he looked a lot fresher than when Hidemasa Nishida got up there.
Yeah, the handholds up there are so bad. You can't afford any foot slips or mistakes with the feet at all. Shakes the hand of the
yeah,
Beeler.
Nice touch from Will. What a gent. Let's have a look. Yeah, 38, so count back to the previous round. Puts him ahead of Sean McCall, so as it stands, he would be on the podium.
Let's have another look. So you see the left toe there at the moment, dialed in. Then goes to the foot swap. The left toe actually pops, and the right foot just smeared on the volume. In real time, I thought it was actually as he swapped his feet on the hole, but it was just before. It was as he was going to swap his feet, his left foot just twisted off. When your foot is completely covering a foothold like that, the only way to get it to foot swap is actually twist the toe off of the hold to make room for the other foot. And in twisting it, I think he twisted it off the wall, twisted it off the edge of the hold.
It was only for the briefest of seconds, but Shuta Tanaka also had the same thing. His feet very briefly came off the wall, but it was slightly more controlled than Will, and he was able to get it back on. So Hiroto Shimizu. Only other final was Briancon right here last year in the Parc des Sports, south of Briancon Town Centre.
Hidemasa already confirmed on the podium. This guy plus one more still to go.
Making the most of every second of his 40 to get on the wall. We saw, I can't remember who it was last night, got the hurry on from the judges. Overstepped there 40 seconds.
Yeah, Marcello actually.
Was it Marcello? Yeah, I remember one of the judges running on, basically booted him.
I've seen the guy with the stopwatch just a few metres off to our side. Deadly serious.
It's not an easy job, the old stopwatch. So here he goes. Hiroto, second to last climber. Only Sean Bailey still to come after him. Sean Bailey, I mean, and Hiroto, what a position they find themselves in. The route's not been topped. Will Bosey, I think, could certainly have pulled. I think he could probably have topped the route. Certainly had a bit of gas left. They've got a massive opportunity here.
Yeah, this is going to be about dealing with the occasion, alongside the difficulty of the route, rather than just the difficulty of the route. These guys who've not seen much finals actions before, not seen it climbed maybe in front of crowds this huge before. Obviously, Sean Bailey has made Boulder World Cup finals before in Wales, and he knows how to deal with a loud crowd. But yeah, let's see what Hiroto can make of it.
It's interesting enough, by the way. Sean McCall was a million miles off getting to the top of the steep section after 1 minute and 30 seconds. Hiroto just getting onto it, completely different cadence to his climbing. You can see, by the way, Sean McCall and Domin just comparing notes actually over on the bouldering mats where the climbers who've already competed are. Hiroto just got himself a little bit tied up there, does well to get himself out of it.
Yeah, very slow up to this stage.
It's the only climber where you think time actually could be a factor. Is he playing to his strengths? Has he got uber endurance?
Yeah, watching him last night in the semi-finals, this is his style. Slow and steady, he wins the race for him. Let's just check down the time. I wonder if he's going to hit the panic button at any minute soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got 3:30 left. Yeah, it could be tight for time. And that's for sure the first climber we've said that about.
Il prend son temps. Ouais, il va plus tranquille. Hein. On sent qu'il y a plus d'expérience que les deux jeunes d'avant. On a parlé de vitesse, bah lui, il n'a pas l'air de s'inquiéter. Lui, ce qu'il veut, c'est la voie.
Yeah, he's still resting, so he's coming up for half of his time remaining.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be completely convinced of what to do there. Does go for the float method, as we saw with Doran, not using that right jib out on the right, just to the just lower than his right foot, as we can see it there.
Yeah, just to give you a heads up, actually, that hold he's got now, we think is number 22. Of course, it's a slightly fluid judging system. The judges may change it slightly if somebody uses what was a foothold as a handhold, but he's somewhere around halfway on the route, and he's got 2:40 left on the clock. So although he has got bags of endurance, he probably needs to get a move on if he wants to top the route. Now, will he take a long rest here? We saw Shooter Tanaka pause for a good minute or so here. Hiroto choosing to get on with things.
He's sort of going for that classic outdoor style of just resting your way up the route, trying to do every sequence as cleanly, as smoothly and as efficiently as possible.
Again, turns to look at the clock. He's got 2 minutes. He has got time to do this, there's no doubt about it, but he's certainly the first climber who will really have to take any notice of the clock. And as you say, Mike, more or less resting the whole way up. Crowd cheer now. 1:40 left for him.
He doesn't look too comfortable leaving this position. He's very comfortable in the position, but doesn't want to leave it at the moment because he's got a really hard undercut screw-on move to do that he is going to do now. From this point onwards, it's going to be a pure fight to the top, you would have thought, based on what we've seen from the other athletes. Can he rest his way up this top head wall?
Very hard to imagine he could, but he's got so much endurance clearly that he's got to start putting it to use. He just turned to look at the clock again, and from the look on his face, didn't look too distressed. Suddenly, almost instantaneously, the cheeks begin to puff, and he's having to work really hard all of a sudden. Again, choosing to pause and have a little shake. Has he timed this perfectly, or has he gone a little bit too slowly? We're about to find out. If he's going to go for it, I'd imagine now is the time.
Yeah, with just 48 seconds left, he needs to get going here if he's got any chance of getting a new high point.
So Hiroto will fire out to the right. The feet cut loose, but he manages to control it up onto the first of 4 triangular volumes. Time a real factor here. 32 seconds left on the clock for him. Crosses through with the right hand. He's definitely got time for a new high point, and he could just about have time for the top if he really gets motoring. Are we about to see a new high point? That's hold 39 coming up. There it is. He will be another 38 plus alongside Shooter Tanaka, but he'll move into second place due to his result in the semi-final.
Yeah, just where it came undone, and then he had the same foot swap issues as we've seen with a couple of the other guys, especially from Will. I have to say, the way that he paced the route, I think he paced it perfectly for the amount of endurance that he had on the route. I don't think he actually could have gone any further, and he couldn't have gone much further because he didn't have any time. 17 seconds is what was left on the clock, and I think he judged it perfectly for the amount of energy that he actually had on the line.
Yeah, so the hold he went for is number 39, and Hidemasa Nishida, who's currently leading the way, has a 39 plus, so he latched that and moved off it. So if Sean Bailey can match him, he will win. We'd love to see a top though. So last climber out with the possibility of surpassing Hidemasa.
Yeah, this is where he got to on the route then. Did actually manage to get that foot swap in, but you could see just a couple of moves lower down, elbows are up, and he was looking particularly pumped at that point.
Now we have just one climber before the end of this final, but he's young. He's from United States of America. Elite final, please welcome Sean Bailey.
Here comes Sean Bailey of the United States. The last climber out, he's got to get a 39 plus or better to win the competition. A few years ago, I think people were predicting a gold medal filled future for Sean Bailey, and it hasn't happened just yet, but he has got an absolutely fabulous opportunity here.
Mais c'est son seul résultat en finale de Coupe du Monde de bloc. Il fait 5 à Briançon en diff et 4 à Villars. Ouais. En revanche, c'est un vrai, il a un profil de grimpeur de difficulté. Et puis ça fait plaisir parce que depuis 2 ans, on ne le voyait plus trop. Et là,
Sean Bailey then final climber on the wall in the men's competition. After this it will be the women's final. 39 plus, the high point from Hidemasa Nishida, first climber out. Hiroto Shimazu and Shuta Tanaka, Japan 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. Can Sean McCall from the USA be the climber that breaks the Japanese deadlock on the podium?
Il fait beaucoup moins de falaises. Alors l'année dernière, on avait lui, Kai Seitner, il y en a des jeunes qui ont disparu du décor. Et aux États-Unis, c'est un peu spécial la gestion de l'escalade. En fait, on croit que c'est une grosse équipe américaine, mais en fait, ils sont un peu cantonnés et divisés dans les différents.
Just searching his options on this lower volume, we have seen it. That volume used in 2 different ways, on the left side and the right side for the right hand. Doesn't seem to make too much difference to the difficulty of the move.
Ça s'organise un petit peu mieux depuis quelques temps. En général, sinon c'était vraiment des grimpeurs qui géraient eux-mêmes.
Just looking over, there's a lot of people from America here. They brought a huge team to the Paraclimbing World Championships earlier this week. They've got a big team here for the Lead World Cup as well.
If you are Sean Bailey at the start of the season, 3rd World Cup, you're going to be the final climber out in front of what could potentially be 10,000 or so people. I think he would have taken that.
I think he certainly would have taken that. And especially if you said that so many of his potentially big rivals would have either stayed at home or fluffed the semi-final, I think he'd have been doubly happy. This is an enormous opportunity for Sean Bailey. 1 minute 45 left on the clock for him. So just to let you know, he is tied with, in the previous rounds, with Hiroto Shimazu, but our current leader Hidemasa Nishida he's not tied with, so if he can, in previous rounds, so if he can match Hidemasa Nishida's 39 plus, he'll win on countback.
Sean Bailey looking a little bit nervous on this right heel at the moment. Goes for the super powerful pound smith. You could see all of a sudden his right foot was just quivering under the...
Yeah, didn't read that quite as well as some of the other climbers who've managed to do it. Much more control than that. You could see the feet cut loose, and even when you hold a move like that, you can't help but have a slight skip of a heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. Gone from looking super chilled on the wall to looking really in the game all of a sudden here.
So this is where it gets pretty serious. Another big move out left that he does well with. Sean beginning to feel the pump. Briefly chalks up. Didn't look like he actually got much chalk on his hand. Goes up to the left crimp now. When will he get the clip done? That was one of the things that cost Sean McCall earlier on. What can Sean Bailey do?
Climbed into this really awkward position, but does manage just to tuck back in on the right arm and get that long orange quick draw, gets it done.
Yeah, not ideal. I think his leg was actually creating a bit of rope drag there, pushed against the wall, and he goes out right. And Sean Bailey can't find a way out right, and it is Hidemasa Nishida who takes the win. It is an all-Japanese podium. It is Hidemasa Nishida, Hiroto Shimazu and Shuta Tanaka. That'll put Sean Bailey down in 6th place. Slightly unusual on how he felt, Mike. He seemed to be pumped but in control and really lunged out to the right.
Yeah, again, it was around quick draw number 8, something like that, with that he had that right heel round on the side of the volume that we've seen some climbers use and some people go to use and then quickly rethink. He all of a sudden he had to go super tight, super tense, jump for the big pinch. From that point onwards he looked kind of slightly in panic mode on the route, I would have thought. And yeah, when he got into that awkward clipping position, decided not to clip off that left pinch for the long quick draw. As soon as he went out into those little shoulders, those little screw-on jibs on the top of the volume, he had to fight really hard to get that long quick draw, and from that point onwards, all of a sudden the elbows were up, and it was bad news from there on, unfortunately.
So the climbers just being presented to the crowd, our top three. It is an all-Japanese top three. They had 3 men in the men's semi-final, and they've taken the 3 medals. Shuta Tanaka in 3rd place, Hiroto Shimizu in 2nd, and Hidemasa Nishida wins a World Cup for the first time. He'd never even been on a podium before. So just to let you know that we'll have the climbers presented to the crowd, which we've just had. I'll be grabbing a word with Hidemasa Nishida live, and then we'll have a short break, and then we'll repeat the process we had earlier on where the women will be introduced to the crowd, then they'll have their observation, and then they'll have their final. So there you can see it, Hidemasa Nishida, 39 plus was enough to do it. There was another 5 moves available on the wall that nobody could access. 39 plus for him, 38 plus for Hiroto Shimizu. He beats his compatriot Shuta Tanaka into 3rd place on count back to the previous rounds, scoring 38, Will Bosi and Sean McColl, and then tied on 34 plus Sean Bailey, Domin Skofic and Marcello Bombari. Well, as I say, if anyone had told me anyone predicted before the weekend that the podium would be Hidemasa Nishida, Hiroto Shimizu and Shuta Tanaka, then get yourself down to the casino, because you are on a winning streak.
Will Bosi ended up in 4th position, same as last week. Bit of a dominance on 4th this season for him. We will be shortly getting a word with Hidemasa Nishida. Interesting route really in the men's competition. A real one for the guys strong on the crimps, pretty steady sequences, and in the end, no top. Good high point though, and a route that was a classic bit of route climbing really. Good pumpy challenge, no tricks, no circus moves, no parkour, some good old fashioned cross throughs, some hard 4-finger crimping. That's what we want to see. Interesting the way that the route setters can play with the styles week in, week out, challenging the climbers in all different ways, one week after another. With so many big names missing here in the men's competition, it was so interesting to see who was going to take it, but what Hidemasa Nishida who takes it, so let's hear from him now.
Hidemasa, huge congratulations. You were the first climber out, and you set the high point. That was an incredible performance.
今日は本当におめでとうございます。一番最初に出てきて最後まで残ったおめでとう。
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
And what was the route like? It looked like there were no really big rests. It just kept coming.
今日のルートはどんな感じでしたか？
結構持久力でしんどかったです。
It needed a lot of endurance, and it was really hard for me.
Well, he had a lot of endurance, and he won the gold medal. Big congratulations.
持久力ずいぶんありましたね。本当におめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Fantastic. Thank you.
Always good to hear from the winner there, Hidemasa Nishida, going through the translator. Charlie Busco will shortly be making his way back to the commentary position. We'll be taking a short break before we bring you the women's competition. So do stay with us, the women's final will be coming very, very shortly. Just a quick short break here whilst the DJ and the local MCs get the crowd pumped. We're going to head for a quick cup of tea and a biscuit, and we'll see you very, very shortly. Do not leave your living rooms. This is going to be a brilliant show in the women's final coming very shortly.
Attention les légendes, 4 nouvelles grimpeuses. L'Asie contre l'Europe. Transmission